Christos, iată lespetina, ca să-l pedepsească nedreptatea.
Găneați! La Dumnezeu!
Sacrilegiu!
Și voi toți, băcriții, calamați, țărănic!
feel that Dracula is very sacramental. And Dracula, in an odd way, is kind of like Christ-like, and it's about the sacrament, and it's about also God's ultimate responsibility and pledge to us, as well as ours to God's, because God is an element in this story. And the whole question of evil, God plays a role.
The idea was to portray Dracula finally as a charismatic, tragic hero that he really was, not just another blood-sucking monster that we had to do away with. This was a man who lost his soul.
And action camera. Blood! Oh, God.
I have tried to play him as rather like Raphael, like a fallen angel, so that there's always that good and bad paralleling one another. Makes it more interesting.
No. Are you okay?
Yes. All right.
No.
Yeah.
Now that's method.
You know how it is when you're a kid, sometimes you have a personal connection with like a favorite movie or a fairy tale or whatever it is. It's something that it was sort of, you thought it was yours. I remember as a kid, loving horror films, and in particular Dracula. And I remember going to the Encyclopedia Britannica as a kid and looked up Dracula and went and saw Vlad the Impaler, and I was like just thrilled to think that it was really a guy.
I agreed with everybody that would say, why another Dracula? I had grown up on the Hammer films, the English Hammer films, Roger Corman movies. I had seen Billy the Kid versus Dracula at the drive-in. To me, Dracula was just this sort of exploitation, blood-sucking monster who wasn't very attractive. And then in 1977, I read the novel. Because to me, Dracula was an epic, sweeping, gothic romance on a scale we had never seen before. The other reason to do Dracula was to bring for the first time into the Stoker story the true historical Dracula that was a national hero, that was a knight sworn to protect the cross of Christ in the church in the 15th century.
The spider spinning his web for the unwary fly. The blood is the life, Mr. Renfield.
Soy Drácula. No podía usted ser más oportuno.
There were so many of them, but no one ever did the book. And I knew what the book was because I read the book. And I could see that in most of the scenes, Harker is called Renfield, and Lucy is the one in love, but she's married to Harker. And they just totally played havoc with Stoker's novel, just to suit whatever God knows the reason was.
You see, take a moment to see. You see her temple. Stewart hurries forward to do the tools.
All of the characters in our movie are alike in their personalities and in their function, like the characters in the book, including many characters that are often cut out, such as Quincy, an American Texas young cattle aristocrat. And so there's a very unusual character of an American as seen from the 1890s point of view. And really, Dr. Seward was never portrayed as the brilliant, because, most of the book are Dr. Seward's scientific dictations.
Francis has locked into the obsessive nature of all these characters so that they're flip sides of the same thing. And unrequited love and lust and all the obsessive nature of that, of what it does to you.
And I bid you welcome, Mr. Harker, to my house.
He's the bogeyman, he's the shadow.
Come.
He represents a part of ourselves, I suppose. And there's something very erotic about that. Very sexual.
Ready? Action!
I love him! I mean, I love the book, and then in the script with the love story between Mina and Dracula, it's really romantic, and I had to kind of start feeling like how Lucy felt, that complete obsession and wanting to be controlled.
Yeah, I mean, she's just, they're two young women in this kind of moment of moody change, too, you know, so that I want to, you know, emphasize less Lucy the tart and more Lucy the soul, and their real connection, what's happening. Action!
I love him, Mina. It's so wonderful to say it. I love him. And I said yes. Lucy, finally, don't tell me. It's the Texan with the big... No, to my dear number 3, Lord Arthur Homewood. Lord and Lady Homewood.
Thunder. Run away in, run into it.
Thunder.
Okay, now lightning.
Come out further. Come out further. Come.
Oh, I feel so free. You're so free.
There was a lot of sexual repression in those days, and you see Lucy kind of as more of this free spirit and much more playful. You see Mina as maybe wanting to do that, but feeling, oh, that's not right. You know, trying to be the dutiful fiancé. And when she meets Dracula, that's kind of unleashed in a way.
I give you life eternal. Everlasting love.
As dark as the character is, Gary has brought a compassion to it and a tenderness to it that people haven't seen in Dracula's character before. My heart breaks, for him. He's cursed. I get to die and go whichever way I'm going. He has to live forever.
Ready, and action.
Cut.
Fuck.
Cut. Anyone killed?
If I do it like this time and I miss, you can shoot me.
Okay, cut. Good. Okay, he needs 10 minutes, so... Yeah, so take that, and she's gonna look like Ophelia, right? Seaweed, they fished her out.
You end up on
The drowned princess.
Yeah.
Stand by. Ready? Here we go. Drown. Tragically.
Margaret.
And ready? Take your breath. And die. Did that. Action. Drown. His beloved wife, or wife-to-be, literally, like Romeo and Juliet, commits suicide. And then the priests tell him that she's damned because she took her own life. That's all like a fairy tale, and how many of us people today renounce our blood tie to the creation, to the creative spirit or whatever it is, and become Draculas, become living dead, become soulless.
As just the fact that he's coming.
Yeah. Can I have a Polaroid taken with you? My scrapbook.
Yeah.
The cast was brought up to Napa Valley for a week to work on it, and Francis throws it out. He throws it out. He just takes the material and throws it out.
He brought us all together as an ensemble, as a team, like you would in a play. That's you very rarely have rehearsal in movies, and it's a luxury to have that time.
Acceptable. First gains ours. Check to the king. And not to take her eyes off her till we returned, and then beckon me out of the room.
We read the entire book together, the entire novel. They couldn't believe it, some of them.
He opened the dining room door.
All actors go through a whole experience in which then finally it breaks for them and they become the character, and they all do it. some much later than others, some when you're halfway through the movie. But each one of them has a little, sometimes just a dumb secret, a simple little experience so that they overcome, and then on the other side of that, they're home free as far as their characters. And of course, I always try to have them have that experience as early during the shooting as possible, and so I like to be with them. And you know, I was a drama counselor with little kids, so you know, it's a beautiful place in the country, and they come, and a lot of them lived in my house like my kids, you know, used to do.
Yeah, it's real, but acted as though you were silent film acting. In other words, in some of it, it was kind of making fun of that kind of. I'm saying play it for real as though we really were making the movie, except to express what the situation is through your pantomime.
You know, he gives you props, he gives you, you know, bits and pieces of things, books to read, films to watch if you want. He's got a big library up in Napa of books on occultism and mysticism and so on and so forth. So you've got all that material to work on. And there isn't much talk, it's mostly action, you know, improvisation, playing games.
I remember feeling stupid. I was at times full of exhilaration. We did these weird things, tossing sounds to each other.
I go, bah, like that.
And I'd take that and say, doing, doing, and then you pass it around, so you just have to be very alert. It doesn't allow you to think and indulge in what you're going to talk about or what you think this character is going to be doing. You just have to react. And I go, zhup, zing, there, whoa,
woo, drawing,
and it's like the most ridiculous thing in the world. But I guess, teaches you to listen, and it breaks the ice. You're not, you know, you no longer feel so stupid talking to Tony Hopkins about, you know, an acting choice after you've thrown a stupid noise at him, you know.
Scene 11, page 47.
Page 47.
Nina's running through the garden, a letter in her hand, her excitement building.
It's 48.
Y tus trailers. Visita mi canal.
47.
Am I have a different script?
46, isn't it?
Oh, yes.
The bottom.
I cannot read.
This is 48.
This is on the other side.
Have I got the wrong script?
Everything was very wobbly. Didn't seem to be any foundation. And, you know, I come from British culture, you know, where everything is very disciplined and laid down and foundation, and you go in and you learn your lines and all that boring stuff. And you know, you get tired of that system of work. So it was interesting working with Francis because everything was uncertain. You never knew from day to day what the scenes were going to be because pages would suddenly vanish from the script and then you get new rewrites.
See the idea that I'm trying to have a memorable moment between Lucy and here are two big characters meeting for the first time.
After we read the book, I said, if anyone can see something from the book that's not in the script that you think it ought to be, please send to me and we'll put out a script that has it all in. So they all did. And of course, they all made their parts 3 times bigger. And we put out the script and there it was.
You see?
Abraham Van Helsing, charmant.
Dr. Van Helsing.
You'll be the beautiful Madame Mina, dear friend to our Lucy, yes.
Working at night, I go home and I look at the script, I stare at the page, I go over and over, and suddenly these ideas come. And I said to my, next day we started rehearsing, I said, you know, I'd like to dance with her. He said, why? I said, I don't know, I'd just like to take her and I'd smell her face because I know she's been with Dracula.
Let's stop the presses.
Stop. And we don't have to change it. We don't have to print it out.
No, but we should. You know, when you have all these scenes, every time we pin it down, it's another nail out of my coffin.
We did it, and he said, that's it. That's great. And then they rewrote the script, that scene.
Young lovers! Hey, listen.
Go now to your friend.
Okay, cut. What do you think?
Baby!
My Michael, what about getting like a close shot of Van Helsing when he breaks the dance? You know what I mean? When he says there are many...
That's what it's about, isn't it? That's what's exciting about it, because you just do it. You're forced onto your inner reserves and you find new ideas.
I remember that day. Remember that day? What did we have for dinner?
Let's try another rehearsal, please.
God help us. Dr. Van Helsing is loose. What a loony.
Because when you get to the set, it's all there for you. And then it all fuses together. And then it proves to you that the rehearsal was worth it.
There are darknesses in life, my child. And there are lights. You're one of the lights. The light of all light. Go now, see your friend.
Cut. Good. Once again.
He's like a chef, I guess. He mixes it all up, and then out comes the scene. It's been the most interesting film I've ever been on, I think.
Oh, look at the feet. You should try these on right now to see how they fit in case we...
Have you got a 9.5?
Very comfortable. Stand. Much better.
How many looks do I have? I'm the old Dracula. The old demonic Dracula. The young wolfen Dracula. I'm a bat. I come in the shape of a mist. I turn into rats. I have this look with the beard. I'm the young romantic Dracula. The sword play. Romanian.
Very good.
Endless fillings. It's the most exhausting thing I've ever had to do. Physically.
That's good, Gary. A lot of stimulating stuff to think about.
Our script was filled with requirements, contact lenses and prosthetics and weird makeup and blood tubes and special effects and wolves and insects. And when you're trying to get the shot and you say, well, the wolf isn't doing what you asked it to do, or the contacts have irritated her eyes and she can't put it in, that the director is, you know, a nervous wreck. First, you go through incredible anxiety, hoping you have a good idea. And then second, you go through the same anxiety, hoping that you can get it, that there's time, that you can shoot it now that you have this great idea. If only I could get it, you know.
Okay, let's shoot this. Stringy.
What's happening, boss?
I always had the idea that when you were in the presence of a vampire, the laws of physics were not exactly the same.
All right, stand by for rehearsal.
The Earth wasn't rotating at exactly that speed, you know, that somehow you were touching another realm, and all the rules of physics would be off.
Good. All right, so the way we're really going to do this is that the wardrobe is going to trail the train without Dracula. Just like...
I can't honestly say, you know, that it's all been roses. We never saw eye to eye on certain things, and that's good. I think that's good. I mean, he's challenged me by giving me the role, and I've tried to do it as the best I could, you know.
And action!
The most remarkable is Carfax Estate. The house there is quite large, and more periods back, I should say, to medieval times.
A house cannot be made habitable in a day. And how few days go to make up a century?
Cut. To live in a new house would kill me.
Coming, enter and go. Would kill me.
Yeah, that's it.
If you could give me a position as it were.
Your entrance position is where you come right in, where you were coming in. Like you come in right.
Where it's just at the top of the stairs.
You're as equally below him as you were above him. This is not it. Cut. Cut. Nothing like what we're doing. You saying the lines?
No, because
the only way to do it is to say the lines, because then you know that when you're at that line, to live in a new house would kill me. I don't know what you're waiting for, because we can't kill you. You're the one doing
No,
the
I'm waiting for Keanu. What I'm doing is waiting for Keanu, because I can start...
What are you waiting for Keanu for? Keanu never does anything. You just walk right out of the thing. Action! No. What was that? To live into a new house would kill me, and then you come through. Okay? It's just that one line I'm going for.
I know you are. I know you are. I know you are.
Why isn't it I can't do it?
No, all I'm saying is that where Keanu is starting, and that time I did the whole speech.
I know, that's the problem.
All I need is a mark, even if it's a white chalk mark on the
There isn't such a mark. It goes by the line.
Yes, but then I can enter. Francis.
I get a little overzealous, and I want my way too. Sometimes.
I am a descendant from an old family, and to live in a new house.
No, you're in too early, Jack.
Okay.
We'll mark that.
I really wanted an actor. You know, I think Dracula is an actor. You know, the devil is an actor, because there is no such thing as evil. There is no devil. You need an actor to impersonate the devil.
Okay, this is it. This is it, Anthony Hopkins. This time you go too far. This time you go over the end into the evil. Action.
You tortured and impaled thousands of people. I served the cross in vain. I was betrayed. Look what your God has done to me.
Your war with God is over. You must pay for your crimes.
Now, which come?
I gotta go. I don't know.
Because they both came at the same time then.
Right, I think what happens...
What do you do when they do a take and it seems pretty good, but you feel there's more emotion, more feeling that you could do? And so what do you tell them? Okay, next take. And so...
Okay. I'd like to do a little improv, if I may.
Yeah.
Gary can come and kind of whisper to you and talk to you and scare them with the force of darkness. Do something, you know, private with them, and, you know, like trying to just be scary in terms of like force you on, get them all in that mood, and just do that. And you yourself work for demonic possession. A little louder on the music. Everyone's gonna be real quiet on the stage, right? It might do anything. It might say anything, and it's meant for you.
That was spooky. He would stop, and in someone's ear, you know, he would say something really demonic and twisted and sick. And he can be pretty twisted and sick, Gary. And it was really frightening because you didn't know when he was going to pop up in your face.
What is this? A cross.
He said, frighten them. Which is like giving me, you know, you don't really want to do that with me.
400 years.
That was one of the maddest scenes ever, because Francis created out of seemingly nothing, because we hadn't resolved those problems in the scene, created all this mayhem.
I, who served God, I, who commanded nations hundreds of years before you were born.
The armies were defeated. You tortured and impaled thousands of people.
I served the cross in vain. I was betrayed. Look what your God has done to me. Look!
Cut. Good. Good. Once again. Very good. Out of control. That's what we want.
Every day is really interesting because you don't know what's going to happen.
Just a little bit of... You got a little Marlin going in this. It's all right, nothing wrong with that.
I always try to do a bit to something like
Do a little bit of Marlin.
Yeah. We're strong in the Lord and the power of His might. We're strong in the Lord and the power of His might. Ex umbris in lucem! Ex umbris in lucem! I bring you from shadow into light. I cast you out. Ex umbris in lucem!
God, good.
Thank you all for a very nice week. It's a wrap.
I don't know about vampires, but I believe that life is a kind of dream. I think it's an illusion. I suppose in that illusion there is room for the darker forces. My life is constantly an illusion. I'm always surprised by it.
Boo! Okay, here we go.
We know what our biggest problem is. Our biggest problem is, why did they go to all this trouble to make that same story again? You've seen all this stuff.
Honestly, I have never seen a Dracula film before I got this job.
I want to give it this Escher-like, surreal, symbolist, kind of strange, impossible thing, and I don't even mind that they transmute one into another.
Francis called me up to ask me to do a costume design. I feel I'm a production designer. Then if I receive the production design work, I do a costume also, because of the costume is be a very important part of the set design. At that time, he said, Echo for Dracula, costume will be set. Set is going to be lighting.
I was going to lead with the costumes. I was going to put most of my money in the costumes, and I was going to diminish the sets and have the sets be more a highly imaginative use of space and shadow and like one set piece in a black void with a cloud projection, which is more the technique of a Citizen Kane even, and let the costume be the jewel of the set.
Saw her work in Paul Schrader's wonderful film Mishima. She was the art director. And then she had even actually participated in doing some very striking Japanese graphics for the poster of Apocalypse Now. And then later on, I looked at her work. She has a beautiful book out with lots of her graphics. I said, well, she's a talented visual artist. She can do costumes. And I just basically took a chance.
Dracula has a very cliché style, built long film history. So Francis, I wanted to completely throw away this cliché look to create our own vision, which is not looks like a man or a woman or old or young or beast or a human or what is this one? Francis quite interested to develop to far-out idea. He hired me as a costume designer, but he's feeling like Echo create entire visual concept.
This style.
Some of the ideas based on armadillo.
This is a...
Can you hold this? Or based on some strange insect.
Your diet, Mr. Renfield, is disgusting.
Actually, they're perfectly nutritious.
Or some of the wedding costume based on lizard. So quite weird connection.
Because I know you were thinking also of making fabric designs based on red blood corpuscles and blood.
Yes.
Are you going to not do that?
I like to that. I can show you a couple of directions of the idea. And I'm going to use more Byzantine color, more gold or some others. When the first time to have a meeting with him, he showed me all symbolism painters. Especially, he pointed to the famous Klimt painting, which titled The Kiss. Eiko, is it possible to realize this painting to one of the Dracula's costume? When I see Klimt painting, I could feel the very oriental flavor with Western painting. I want to express hybrid culture, which is East meet West. My image of the Dracula should have a million faces. It's almost like endless transformation. Gary Oldman is a wonderful collaborator for my crazy design. But it's kind of like a process I have. First time he appeared in my place, he said, Eiko's best costume for me as an actor is T-shirts and jeans. I said, yes, I understand. For me, also, T-shirts and jeans, most comfortable costume in the human history. So what do you think?
Yeah, that's good. Knee cup. Oh, I like these.
That's that option.
This is one. Yeah, I can act in this.
Do these plates connect on the...
I could do an emotional love scene in this suit.
Yeah. Do they connect on this hips?
This is the first appearance for Dracula's costume. So, Francis, I discussed it's a kind of sensational appearance for the beginning of the movie.
I feel like a person still trapped within a car wreck. And they haven't quite got me out. The ambulance hasn't arrived yet. So.
I can get you to hold still just a second, Gary.
Hold still, of course. I can't move in this.
That's an occasion where actually the suit was wearing me, because I couldn't really do my thing.
He's just trying to feel out a position.
In the end, I tried to ignore the suit, actually, and just, I am not wearing this armor. I'm just going to do what I want to do.
His acting is so powerful and dynamic. The piece by piece, all my armor is falling down.
Ah, Jesus Christ. Here we go, action!
I should decide, I want to use this snake dress for a party. And very sexy.
Nice dress. It's a nice snake dress.
Is it really?
Then, so I should prepare the first dress for Mina, typing dress. And Mina is wearing this blue. Costume for Mina is a very strict, tight, conservative costume. Especially symbolized a high neck and tied up to front. It's almost like really virginity or modesty or strict to a teacher's personality, and Lucy is completely opposite. Would you not just a little? Yes. I have chosen theme color for each leading roles. Lucy's is kind of like a vampire characters, and that sequence, she should be very, very erotic. And also at the nighttime storm, and I could imagine the house sets is dark. So I wanted costume stand out under the very dark moonlight, you know. Then I have chosen orange might be my first time to use orange in my history. I never use orange.
I was just saying that this costume you couldn't really do anything in. I mean, I could put my arms up to there.
But holding the babies looks more like a ghost. You understand?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just thought it'd be really interesting if when Lucy was a vampire, she'd have very animal-like moves herself. So I worked with a choreographer and I tried to find like ways of like moving like a lizard. And I thought it'd be really good to slide down the stairs on my stomach. Can't do that, Lauren. I can't come back. Oh, yes, you can.
You can do that, yeah.
That's kind of weird looking, which is kind of neat.
Very neat. When I've seen Sadie's rehearsal, I thought it's impossible. She cannot walk in the floor. She's wearing my wedding costume, which is not comfortable like a t-shirts and jeans. And she's holding a very heavy child in her arm and walk down to a staircase with a huge train.
Visita mi canal.
So if Sadie cannot do with my elaborate costumes, I thought about I should change my idea for another way. Then I asked Francis, should I change? He said, no, keep it.
The director often is forced to look around and say, well, I don't have what I thought I was going to have, so what do I have and how can I make use in an unusual way what I have?
Lucy!
In the case of Dracula, or I'd have her crawl on the floor like a snake and be said, well, the costume would not allow that to happen, and so then you have to think of something else that maybe gets at the same gist of what you hoped, but you have to do it in a new way.
Michael can.
Sadie?
Yeah?
This is going to be your hardest thing you've been called upon to do. It's going to take all of your Olympic skill.
Okay.
You got to do it all backwards.
Okay. Should we just
Ready?
rehearse it and see what...
Here we go. Ready? You start sleepy. Action. Now you're a little more conscious and your eyes are looking at him sort of horrible, right? And then you do all of this. Good. Very, oh, wow.
Holy crap! We're strong in the Lord! The power of his might! We're strong in the Lord!
Obviously, the costumes are extremely unusual, very beautiful, and when I said the costumes would be the set, I think that was fulfilled.
There are no limits to science.
How can you call this science?
In the beginning of cinema, there were documentaries, basically people in the street photographing people, very crude narrative movies, and trick films. And these were films that were just meant to delight with bizarre effects, running film backwards, making jump cuts so that things appeared to appear out of nowhere, and all these types of things. I'm Roman Coppola. I was the visual effects and second unit director of Bram Stoker's Dracula. And it's odd that I'm here being interviewed in front of a green screen because this more modern technology is something that we did not use for the making of our picture, favoring instead old-fashioned movie tricks. Green screen has been used for many years, and sodium vapor, any kind of process by which you can pull out the background and superimpose another background in there. But we felt that wasn't in the spirit of these very early films, and so we chose not to use it. And it was just the challenge of doing it the hard way and the pleasure of knowing that was how it was done in the past, and we were staying in that tradition. The process of doing it is more involving, and I think the result shows.
Cut. Let's just see that backwards.
To the convent.
The same date as the birth of the cinema, and not only that, but the birth of the cinema coming out of magicians and illusions and basically magic tricks. I thought that I would not only make the film entirely in a false place, in a studio, but I would only use effects done as they would have been done in 1900.
I have not been getting what I've been asking for. I have been asking for shadows and illusion and double impositions and imagination.
And the big visual effects supervisors came on the film and told me how I had to do this stuff, and basically I saw that little by little they were, as they always do, leading me down the path to do it the way everybody else does it. I fired them, and I hired my young son, I don't know that he was even 30 at the time, Roman Coppola, to be my collaborator. And in a sense, I began to realize that it was only my own family, who, you know, my son, whom I had raised in this style of adventure, who would be there shoulder to shoulder with me, you know, pushing it to be what I hoped it could be.
We started talking about how magic illusions could be used.
Candle.
Reverse photography, running the camera backwards, and then it was played forwards for an unusual effect. The old trick that the Marx Brothers used so nicely, in which you think there's a mirror, but in fact there's an empty space and there's a duplicate set beyond. Altering gravity, taking the camera, putting it on its side, putting the set a bit on its side, and then unusual things happen in which you feel that you are level, but in fact you're not, and so odd things happen.
Cut. Good.
Marker.
The double exposure that we did with Harker walking through the castle, and we have some rats scampering across the ceiling, and that was done in camera with 2 passes in which we photographed the rat with the camera upside down, and we used a special matte box that blocked the film from being exposed. We rewound the film, flipped the camera over, and aligned this special matte box that we had, and then we were ready for Keanu Reeves to come in and do his walking by with the candles, and those 2 passes were exposed with one another.
They're going back to an old school of filmmaking. Old school in the sense of that, you know, Terminator 2 is all computer graphics, and this is like, you know, ropes and mirrors and, you know, that kind of hocus pocus, which is delightful.
Years ago in New York, my dad acquired a very old Pathé camera, which is one of the workhorse cameras of the early period of silent filmmaking.
Are we going to shoot you today? We have time because it didn't rain. With the old Pathé camera, the original silent camera, the way Griffith and those guys, so that the whole sequence when it starts will look like that. Oh yeah? Yeah, that's what I want to do. A fast walk, da 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 dum dum dum. But I like it when it varies a little bit, you know, so you get the. I want it to. If you do it too good, then it looks like Panavision.
Walking, keep walking.
How'd he do? Did he say?
What he's doing, he's singing to himself.
That's the way they did it.
Yeah,
That's
he's singing to himself.
What they did.
Great.
So the movie was based on several innovative, risky ideas. That all the effects would be done in camera and not with the benefit of modern computer or optical printer technology.
We would try to do our own naive effects, and it would give the film almost more of a mythical soul.
In the book of Dracula, the coachman literally reaches out. Jonathan Harker is standing 15 feet away, and the coachman's able just to reach out and take him by the shoulder and put him in the coach. I guess today they would achieve that with a digital effect. You know, they'll basically sort of animate it and then do it. And, you know, I love that image from the book, and I wasn't getting it, and so I put my foot down and said, let's think of a way to do this. And ultimately, we did come up with a solution live, which was that the coachman was really on a kind of camera crane, although you couldn't tell, and so when he reached out towards Jonathan Harker, the crane actually moved him, so the arm just kept going, and he was able to get him and put him in the coach. Now that's a moment, I mean, maybe some people notice, well, that was very peculiar, how did they do that? Or not. I don't think it's important that each of these textures or colors are really seen for what they are and how they were done, but they contribute to the overall strangeness, the idea that you're entering into an unusual world.
Researching Dracula, I discovered the work of Mario Bava. A film like Black Sunday has some neat visual tricks, and there's a particular scene of the carriage ride which we were inspired by. We basically used tree branches that were just being held by grips, passing them by the windows and rocking the carriage. I mean, these are all very old-time movie tricks, but we did it in a slightly more theatrical fashion. And there's a lightning strike, which was in fact a illuminated frame with a kind of claw-shaped lightning that was right there on the soundstage, and it looks kind of fake, but wonderfully so.
You don't judge whether, oh, the fact that I worked so hard to get this one little thing, and maybe it'll turn out to be great. Because as we know, in movies, sometimes just a simple moment is something that, or a simple line is something that people just constantly refer to. I mean, who would have known that leave the gun, take the cannoli, which was an afterthought, because my father used to bring a box of cannoli when I was a kid. Who would know that anybody would remember that line? But you don't, and you don't know equally moments or illusions or effects which will really be the one.
Nice, hold it.
So we did a lot of noodling around and testing with video cameras, and I shot an early film test exploring some front projection. So the spirit of our preparation period was very much a workshop, looking for ideas, seeing what stuck. And in the case of that test I did of a skull projecting onto a face, we developed the idea of the map being projected onto Harker's face. So these are all little steps in a process of finding the look and the ways that the effects could be integrated into the story.
We see the peacocks in the eye of a feather. It becomes a train tunnel.
The train sequence was heavily boarded, and we basically laid everything out on the table. We welded it all together to create a kind of flowing series of overlapping pieces that passed through the peacock feather, through the tunnel, and the train making its journey through Transylvania.
As he's going along, he's reading his journal. The journal in the bottom half of the frame, and the train, and it looks like it's traveling on top of the book. Say this is the camera, and the train was about 20 feet away from us. And then the book was put literally, because it was a small book, it was a real journal. The book was put literally right next to the lens. To be able to get the shadow onto a little book like this wasn't gonna work. So Gene, my father, decided, well, what you're gonna have to do is you're gonna have to recreate the book 20 feet away. And then use the same train, put one light up, make a shadow of the smoke, and make it go across the book. And I'm sitting here going, well, that's gonna have to be like a 20-foot wide book. And Gene says, well, okay.
The train sequences, there's so many things going on. The complications, I think we had to deliver 22 seconds worth in order, which is long for this type of situation, particularly for traveling right to left. It also involved a very small-scale miniature of the train. We had a mountain range that was fixed, but the sky was only 3 feet behind it. And in front of that, rocks and some smaller trees that moved at a very slow rate. And then there was a middle ground that moved a little faster, and then the immediate foreground outside the train car moved very fast. The camera was on another track right in front of it that moved from left to right, and the set in front of us was moving from right to left, and that gave us the speed distance. And it was a two-pass shot. So in the film, it's not sent to the lab to be developed. We had to back it up, turn all the lights out, and that there was like a movie screen, and then we projected on that sky a plate of Dracula's eyes that Roman had shot. There was a mock-up of the interior of the train car on tires or springs that Keanu sat in. And behind it, again, is like a movie screen, but it's known as a rear projection screen because you're projecting the image from behind rather than in front. When you see that in the theater, what you're seeing there all was done together. The background and the foreground was done together.
My friend, welcome to the Carpathians. I am anxiously expecting you.
It was a big challenge, and I love doing these other type techniques that every year goes by now, less and less are done, and I'm a hands-on kind of guy, and it's just much more fun than, holding a mouse or...
Tiny bit now when you said it. So just want to point it out.
The entire film was shot, with very few exceptions, inside the stages of the MGM lot. And that was the condition of the shoot. We're shooting everything on the stages, so we had to be clever about how to give it an expansiveness, and that was why we chose to do forced perspective. Forced perspective comes from the principle that the camera has one eye, which is the lens. We, in our life, have two eyeballs, so we see things with dimension and can sense depth, but the camera can't sense depth. If you're traveling and you see a monument, you can stand beside it and put your arm out, and it looks as if you're the same height touching that monument that's actually much further in the distance, but it's just a trick of the single viewpoint of the camera that seems to compress those things and put them on the same plane.
In Dracula, the mansion is actually hanging in the air with an arm, so the mansion is suspended. And then there's the ground that slopes down, and if you bring it really close to the camera, then it appears like it's 250 yards away, even though it's a miniature. And then you can have the full-scale fence, the full-scale horses, and the carriage. In front of all of this, you can make it appear as if it's a mansion sitting there, 250 yards away.
They stop, they turn, he shoots, Seward gets hit, turn around, slash. Meanwhile, he slashes, knocks the thing out of hand, turn, fires back.
We shot all the Borgo Pass inside a soundstage. I think it was stage 15, the biggest stage around, so it was enormous, and we had a big oval track, basically, in which the set was designed with certain outcroppings of rocks and several matte paintings that gave different looks. used every trick in the book, and probably the last film that will do that. I mean, I hope that's not a true statement, but we made this film in '92, which is right when computer effects were blossoming. I think computer trickery is very useful, and I've done much of it myself, but it was just a wonderful last moment for a film made on that scale in Hollywood at the famous MGM studios, where they shot great classic films, to go back to those traditions and really do it in the way it had been done. And that's something that I think of fondly.
I wouldn't put them in the first category. The first one being one that was done just with like paintings of the period, so that we have now the record of, as the project evolved, first with images that were just taken from symbolist paintings and stuff. But now what I'm doing is I'm looking at one of these early versions that had just some imagery that kind of I don't want to lose. Because when you get on the storyboard level, it's sort of like a coloring book. It has the thing of where the people are standing, but it doesn't have any magic of the image, whereas this doesn't have where they're standing, but has the magic, and somehow it's almost like these are swatches. This movie, in my interpretation of it, is going to be like a kind of dark, erotic nightmare, so that I want the feel of the movie to be, you know, more evocative of dreams and psychology than, strictly speaking, just, you know, reality.
There was a book called Dreamers of Decadence that has a lot of imagery that we referenced and were inspired by. In particular, work by Klimt, and that shows up obviously with a lot of the wardrobe.
These artistic movements influenced and informed the ways that we had of thinking about the imagery that we were using. So it was almost as if he was saying, don't just use these as visual references, become one of these artists. Try to think the way that these guys thought, and let's apply that to the imagery that we're going to use in the film.
My dad would find things that inspired him and cook up notes that would be passed along to the storyboard artist and to myself, and we would work them into our storyboards and to our planning. There was a painting by an artist named Kupka, an image of a sort of a form that has this kind of epic quality that was a point of inspiration for the castle, and it was very elusive to get that right castle image. It came together with the help of Peter Ramsey, the illustrator, to really define it, and Matt World did many of those shots that had the castle, and they kind of nailed that weird, iconic look that it has.
Yeah, dude, you want to do the Homewood stuff? It's in the script, all those little cutaways of Homewood. He's guarding Lucy, and he's drinking his booze. Those will be fun. I would, do maybe a little high angle.
When you make a movie like this with these disparate elements, you needed something more than a script. We needed something that was more a combination of text and dialogue and the actual images. I come from a composer and a musician's family, so we published what we called the score, which was like the score that an opera conductor will use when he's doing Men en Lescaut, which is a big book that has all the music and all the singing and all the dramatic directions all in one big Bible.
Steve, we have to get a level.
We're ready.
Okay. Bram Stoker's Dracula. Columbia logo, main title, and credits. We go to an exterior of Constantinople. A large cross, fire illuminates the sky. We roll the legend. 1462, Muslim Turks led by the Sultan Mohammed.
Actors were brought in. We had several different readings of the text, and slowly this document grew and was built until finally, as we were shooting the movie, the shots and the scenes were edited on top of it. So there was an interesting process of growing the movie using references and slowly welding it together out of all these pieces until finally the film was kind of born.
Pale Turks lined up along the road. His castle in the distance. Millions are hungry. Stop. How's it sound?
Sounds wonderful.
Sounds good. Huh?
Yeah. This is very quick. So what's the problem? I hit thunder and I got a gunshot.
Yeah, you got a gunshot.
And then I hit one of the horses and I got an axe chop. So I'm thinking, oh God. We're just going to redo this a little bit.
A hand comes in and pulls off the eldest bride. Dracula appears tremendous over them. Dark winds around him. Fire billows from the fireplace so that he looks like the devil himself. He bends down and grabs the youngest bride and throws her, hurling her away like a rag doll.
How dare you touch him when I have forbidden it? This man belongs to me.
She sticks to the wall like a fly. She scurries across the ceiling, taunting Dracula. The brides entwine themselves like giant insects and scurry away together.
A director, basically, when he makes a movie, is gathering material. I sometimes call it, I'm out there gathering mushrooms. And I'm not really making the film, but I'm gathering the mushrooms for this pie I'm going to make. And sometimes I have a day, I have find a lot of mushrooms, and sometimes I don't find any, and sometimes I find some, but they're poison mushrooms. Sometimes I find some and they're magic mushrooms. And it's only later, when you look at all of the stuff you gathered, that you set about the task of making the film.
A little more like an insect, not quite as high, maybe. Living right.
Francis was always asking for ideas, more ideas. Give me the wildest, most far-out things you can. This was a notion that came from the Cocteau, Beauty and the Beast, which was also one of our references, that Dracula, when he hears about Mina not wanting to be with him anymore, gets so anguished that he kind of starts to steam, and his emotions take on this sort of physical property.
I would flip them and then, rather than having to sit right next to each other, just bring him around
Slightly
a little.
facing
and then slightly facing, and then it would sort of achieve to that. Okay. No problem.
We're always looking for connections. With a visual layered montage, certain shapes echo one another. So you have a shape of a glass, and that's a circle if it's seen from above, and then naturally you think of what else is circular, and an eyeball is circular, so you put those two things together. And those are all ideas that just came about in the process of boarding and looking for little connections that you can weave together.
A lot of times Roman knew the technique he wanted to use, but it would take some back and forth and thinking about it to see exactly how he was going to achieve it. Early versions of the opening were real kind of naturalistic and straightforward, and they never quite seemed to work, and Francis wanted to bring something more to them. This was before the idea of the silhouettes really came in, and one of the issues was, at that time we didn't have the fantastic echo design of Dracula's armor, which kicked things in a whole new direction. And, we were just drawing him in this lame kind of wolf head helmet, and that was kind of like, you know, we got to do something to get this onto a different level. The silhouette idea came up not too long after that and was a lot more striking and kind of original. I always thought of it as a way to kind of start to clue the audience in as to the visual techniques that he was going to use through the rest of the film, and sort of to distance the audience from the idea that this was literal reality.
The warrior prince is surrounded by his men. They realize they are victorious. He gets off his horse and kneels, removing his wolf helmet. We see the young face of Dracula.
So the score was pretty instrumental in being, more than anything else, I think, a reference point of knowing what your original intention was. The different thing about Dracula was that so much of it was about evoking a feeling, trying to use specific sets of tools. The visual influences, the theatrical, there were so many different boxes that we had that we could draw from at any given time. And it was great because it was, you had kind of limitless freedom, but you also had a direction that you knew you were moving in.